Hey everybody, welcome to Geeksvana Live. I really appreciate you all coming along as ever to join us this Monday evening. Is it Monday already? Has the week started? Where did the weekend go? But anyway, thank you all for being here. I really do appreciate it. Tonight, we've got an update on a story which we've discussed previously on the channel, and we did promise an update once it had been to court, and here we now are, basically. So we are going to be talking through this. Before we start, if you're new here, hit subscribe, and could my regulars please hit that like button nice and early, whether you're watching live or whether you're watching the replay. It really, really does help the channel. So as regular viewers will remember, this story actually came to light when a 27-year-old man was charged following a drone flight over a football game at Chesterfield FC. The football match has been described by the written press today, especially as a crucial match due to it being a promotion battle, which, for anybody who's wondering, actually ended 1-1. Lewis Franks is described as actually weeping, the gentleman in question, in court, as he admitted flying the drone above the game at Chesterfield FC's Technique Stadium in Derbyshire at 5:20 p.m. on May the 7th during a National League playoff semi-final. The referee took the players off the field for a short period due to his concerns over safety, and as is the Football Association and the Premier League. Obviously, this isn't a Premier League game, but the Football Association and Premier League standard for their referees to do so. There were over 9,600 attending the game, which was also shown live on BT Sport. The releases on this tell us that the drone was flown as low as 6.1 meters above the pitch. Now, Franks has pleaded guilty to flying a drone above assemblies of people, flying beyond visual line of sight, failing to register as a drone operator, and failing to display an operator ID on the drone itself. So those are the main drone charges that he pled guilty to. He also admitted driving his partner's car without insurance and failing to stop when police attempted to apprehend him in the town of Derby on the same day. Now, the prosecutor, Pradeep Kalan, told the court that when Franks did eventually stop, he told officers, "You stopped me because I've been flying a drone." Now, I'm not sure. We'll discuss it with my co-host Graham when he comes in just a couple of minutes, but I'm not entirely sure there was a manhunt on for him at that point, but that's what he told them when he did eventually stop. Mr. Kalin also said the offence is not one that we see on a regular basis, but it may become a lot more common. Now, footage from BT was shown in court, showing the referee dealing with the situation and actually removing the players for a short amount of time from the field of play. The charges relating to the drone flights were actually not something that he could have faced jail over. These were finable offences, especially at the level they were being dealt with. There were several other instances of him piloting a drone illegally, which were committed prior to that event, which were also taken into consideration by the magistrate. If you remember our original show on this, it was actually titled to include that there were many other potential charges which were following up on it, but that was removed at the time from that press release. But it has now, by the time that this actually went to court today, this was actually readmitted. So there were several other instances of illegal drone flight which he asked to be taken into consideration. So keep that in mind as well with this story. Now, in mitigation, the defence said that it was a hobby that they felt had gone wrong. Going near a sporting event is stupid, it's naive, but it's not a gentleman who is flying his drone at eye level, and he's being a bit nosy, and he's having a look. And that, as I say, came from the defence in court today. It is the naivety of someone who has not done the research. Chairwoman of the bench of magistrates, Jennifer Wood, and normally with sentencing, you can predict what's going to happen. But there's some interesting things said here, which I know Graham's got a lot to say about some of the parts in particular as well. But she opened her sentencing remarks with the words that difficult one this, later adding that it's not her job to lecture you. You're not a criminal for this. We've seen far worse, but it was dangerous. It seems a shame that you're not going to fly your drone again. I would say license it, learn how to fly it properly, and get the enjoyment out of it that you clearly want. She added, we've been fair with you, and from my perspective, it's been very interesting. It's fun for you, and we get why, but you have to be properly trained and have to be properly licensed. I can hear Graham starting to babble in my ear already. He's trying to hold it back. Hold it back, Graham. We're coming to you soon. Franks of Allsops Place, Chesterfield, was fined. So this is the breakdown of the fine as well. So he was fined £640 and given 6 penalty points for the driving without insurance part, £426 for failing to stop. So already we've got quite a lot of the fine there, just over £1,000 dealt with within the driving side of things. £200 for failing to register as a drone operator, £200 for failing to display an operator ID, £500 for the flying over assemblies of people, and £500 for flying beyond visual line of sight. He was also ordered to pay £986 victim surcharge and £85 costs. So we've got an interesting breakdown there in terms of the costs, and that is the basics of the update of the story. But I now want to bring Graham in and have a little chat about some of the things which we've seen going on behind this, and just pull a few of those comments out as well. Graham, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Sean. This one's a nice last minute one that popped up this afternoon, wasn't it?
Yes, indeed. It's always fun to have the breaking news ones, but this is one that's obviously it really created a bit of a buzz when it happened, of course. And one of the things I would like to point out, and I think I've actually got this later on our run order, but I'm going to talk about it right now, is really two aspects there were very interesting to me. Firstly, something that was worth emphasising is that the magistrate did not see the drone element to be a particularly serious part of the offence.
It's fascinating, isn't it? You are not a criminal for this, despite it being essentially a criminal charge.
Yeah, I think what she's trying to say is that, you know, of all the people that they have coming in front of them as magistrates, that actually somebody flying the drone, and because obviously nobody got hurt, nothing happened, etc., you know, that type of thing, that actually she didn't really necessarily see him as the worst criminal that had come before them, which I think that's worth pointing out. And it's good to see that from the courts, that they're seeing that actually. And also when you look at the fines, the fact that the fines were individually heavier for the insurance part and the failing to stop part, I think shows that there is some balance. Not leniency, but certainly that at least this magistrate has taken a balanced view in terms of, you know, £640 for and penalty points for driving without insurance, £200 for failing to register as a drone operator, £200 for the failing. Of course, the flying above assemblies and flying beyond visual line of sight were higher at £500 each, but I would also say that yes, flying beyond visual line of sight is more serious than failing to register.
Yeah. Those could have been a lot higher. I wonder if somebody had a little whisper in her ear about the fact that essentially there is no requirement to learn any of the regulations.
Would it have even required that? Well, yes, no, indeed, yes. We will come on to that. But you know, it's interesting whenever we step outside of the drone world and we get feedback from people outside of it in terms of where they view these things and how serious they think these things are, that actually I don't think that it's something which is actually that serious in terms of wider criminality. And it's nice to hear that feedback from the legal system, if only because, of course, we do cover a lot of serious topics here on Geeksvana, and it is very, you know, doom and gloom sometimes is how it feels. When, of course, you know, we can only report what's actually happening in the news rather than create it. And it has been a little bit focused on enforcement because I do, as I said last year, I really do believe this is going to be the year that enforcement comes to life here and in the US in terms of drones. So we're going to see the pendulum swinging around. And I think that actually, if a member of the public reads an article with those kind of quotes, they're not going to necessarily come away with a hideous sort of, you know, demonized drone flyer that was trying to steal your data or hurt you or something like that. That actually this was a guy that messed up in his hobby.
Yeah, absolutely. Balance. I mean, we've seen far worse. Yes, but it was dangerous. Yes, it was. I mean, things could have gone wrong there. It's a very small drone. It's not the M300. It's sub 250. So Well,
Dave Hamer in the chat, and you've actually brought up the point which I'm going to talk about right now. It's not right what he did, but I do get a bit pissed off. I'm more than happy to say the full word. Thank you for censoring it in the chat, Dave. With the Presto publishing a picture of an M300, I'm sure he wouldn't have been piloting one of those. Absolutely, that was the police drone. And in actual fact, the day this happened, I have BT Sport as one of my subscriptions, and the day this happened, I jumped to the TV and I actually took a photograph of the drone myself because the cameras were showing it. This is taken by me, taken by Sean from Geeksvana, of my TV of BT Sports, with the, obviously you can rewind live TV these days with the wonderful Virgin TV box. Advert, not sponsored. But this shows the drone that was being flown, and it interests me that a lot of the press, even today, I've seen articles saying here is a drone seen over the football game that day. And you think, are you deliberately trying to demonize drone flyers there? Because there is a big difference between a very large M300 with props that could probably lop an arm off, frankly, if that thing went wrong.
I wouldn't get in the way of them.
Being flown by professional police pilot to this.
Yeah,
there is a huge difference.
And if that's available to you, that's available to the wider press.
Indeed, exactly. And it's interesting that the pictures that they use and the way that it happens, and I think that this could have been something that was reported in a far more negative way, actually, if the magistrate hadn't given her comments, or the lead magistrate hadn't given such balanced comments, which I think is a really good thing, frankly. But yes, this is the drone that was used, not the M300, and it comes back to something which you raised as well off air, Graham, that of course there was one charge missing from the list of charges that you might expect to sometimes see, and something which we talk about a lot on this channel, which was
reckless endangerment. Yes. Article 241. It was 6.5 meters away from people. I mean, if that was a drone pilot flying under an operational authorization, they'd be struck off for flying at that level, and let's add an OSC in place. So it's all the circumstances are different every time. But if it's 6.5 meters above the heads, nobody's looking at that saying, that's an imminent threat to life.
No, exactly. So I think that there has been some balance here in terms of what they've actually gone after in terms of charges and that type of thing, but also the way that the magistrates dealt with it as well. And that gives me a little bit of not hope for the future, but I feel like this isn't representative of the drone hobby. This isn't representative of drones. This is the releases, the information from the magistrates very much reads that this guy carried out and committed these offences, so we're fining him. Not that drones are bad and we need to control them all and we need to, regulate them into oblivion, etc. It just feels like a much more balanced way of approaching the topic.
It's got to be said, if I was flying my drone down my sort of the local field where I go to, and you get people wandering around and walking their dogs, I wouldn't mind if Jennifer Wood came along, because I bet she would be one of the people saying, "Oh, can I have a little look and see what you can see?"
Yeah,
she seemed interested. Well, she said, didn't she? She said,
that's right.
I don't think she was interested purely because of the sort of charge it was. I suspect she was interested because the technology and
that's right. Because she did say it seems a shame that you're not going to get to fly your drone again. I would say license it, learn how to fly it properly, and get the enjoyment out of it that you clearly want. Now, that leads us naturally nicely on to the next little part of our conversation, which, of course, is where the magistrate is recommending that you get licensed, and or rather the magistrate said they could see why you need to be licensed and trained to fly drones. Can you tell me why that might be a little bit of an issue with this drone at the moment?
Possibly, because it's sub 250 grams, so the minimum competence requirement is read the manual. So that's no training. So
there's actually no formal training required to fly that drone. I mean, I understand what she's saying, not picking, because she's been extremely fair, so not picking. That is more a very slight bullet aimed towards the CAA than anybody else, from the point of view that actually there does seem to be a little bit of inconsistency in terms of what you need to know to be able to fly these drones. Because again, to fly a sub 250 gram camera drone, operator ID, read the manual, you're done.
Yeah.
Which.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's interesting to then sort of but again, as I say, they didn't exactly throw the book at someone who also had lots of other offences taken into account. Clearly, once he's been pulled over and said, "I was flying my drone, that's why you've pulled me over," I have to say, personal opinion only. I doubt there was a mass manhunt in Derby to find this guy.
No.
And it's probably, the car's pinged because no insurance or something else.
Yeah.
And then failed to stop as well. And then to say that you're pulling me over for the drone flight, of course they're then going to look for a drone. And once they confiscate that drone, they're then going to look through the flight logs and
say, oh, let's put two and two together. But this is what the police often say, isn't it? Is that if they get you for one thing, they'll get you for
snowball effect. Yeah,
because you are probably, perhaps not that careful around certain aspects of the law.
That's it, exactly. And I always call it the snowball effect. That once if they want to go for you, then they will go for you for everything. And actually, because people say to me, oh, I can't see them enforcing X, I can't see them enforcing Y, and there isn't, and there literally aren't, quite rightly, police officers hiding around hedges to jump out with drone pilots. However, when things do go wrong, that's when you have to worry about the snowball effect. So actually, saying screw the rules, I'm not, I fly BV loss, so what's the point in being registered? What's the point in this? What's the point in that? Actually, there's a good point in terms of mitigating when it comes down to that snowball effect, frankly, in my opinion. So I'm sure there's other things they can get you for. I'm not trying to coach people in how to receive lower fines. Dave Hamer, thank you very much for the £5 super chat and thanking me for the mention. You're quite welcome. So it was a perfectly timed comment.
This is one of the interesting ones as well, because we're talking about this on the fixed penalty fines the other evening. The fact that yes, he got £200 for failing to register, but yes, bumped on top of that because you've not registered, you can't display your registration number, so another £200 for that. So they will just bump these things up. They don't just go for the highest
Indeed.
Sort of
and of course he was caught after the event, so part of the whole fixed penalty side of things is that police officer walks up to you while you're flying your drone, of course follows every guideline and correctly issues the penalty notice and finds you on the spot, as it were, whereas of course this was an investigation after the event. So yes, but again, it's an interesting one, and I think and I hope it should put people off the whole sports stadium thing that seemed to be a bit of a
seems to be getting a bit of a trend, didn't it?
Yeah, for a while there it seemed to be a bit of a trend thing, which was not particularly helpful to anybody, basically.
No.
But it does seem as well that the basics of the main areas of enforcement are stepping up. Whereas previously, perhaps we would have seen people being prosecuted for very serious instances. And I think we would have only expected things to go through to court if somebody had done something, hurt someone, or something had really gone wrong. There was real risk there. But now we are starting to see an increase in enforcement. And I think, again, with the fixed penalties, etc., that are coming soon, then actually, I think we are going to see something which is becoming more of an everyday thing, which is flying a drone, become more of an everyday enforcement item as well, basically. And I'm just as sad as everybody else that that's the case, but it's probably something we're going to have to get used to.